Some stories don't scare you right away. They trigger something deeper, a nervous synapse firing before you understand why. Welcome to Nervous Synapses. So grab a mug of your favorite cozy drink, a comfy blanket, and let's settle in for tonight's story. I was told this story by a cousin of mine in the Philippines. She had gone to a Catholic girls' high school there, and it was a popular ghost story told amongst the students, especially on retreat days. As a background, there are many very old educational institutions in the Philippines, and many are also Catholic schools run by nuns. My cousin's school fell in that category. I won't disclose the school's name, but it was one of the better known Catholic schools in Quezon City. The school was established during World War II and started off as a facility previously occupied by the Army. Although the school doesn't have quite as morbid a history as many other older schools in the Philippines, such as having first been a cemetery, then a hospital, before being turned into school grounds, the fact that it was originally a military facility during World War II is bound to give it some sense of creepiness as well. It would probably be safe to assume that some soldiers may have lost their lives in that facility during that tumultuous time. Needless to say, it has its fair share of paranormal stories, and this is one of them. It was the senior class's end of the year retreat just before they all graduated. It was a 3-day retreat to be held in the school grounds, with daily and nightly activities orchestrated by both the faculty and the nuns. The activities were all faith-based and supposed to help the young ladies grow and blossom into women reflective of their school's mission, vision, and values. During the day, some of the activities were held in the classrooms, and some were out in the huge activity field in between the two rectangular buildings that made up the school. At night, they retreated back to the classrooms, which they would turn into sleeping quarters by pushing the desks towards the walls and laying down their sleeping bags on the floor. Therefore, the girls left their belongings in their assigned classrooms, so they can be there when they returned for the night. The seniors' classrooms were on the 4th floor of the high school building and consisted of 5 separate classrooms. On the particular day when the incident happened, it was almost dusk. A group of girls were gathered in the center field where they were practicing a dance number that they would be performing on the last day of the retreat. Shortly after practice began, one girl named Sarah realized that she had forgotten her dance notes in her backpack. She decided to run to her classroom to quickly retrieve her notes. Her classroom was the very last one on the 4th floor hallway. As she got to the top of the 4th floor staircase, she looked down the hallway and realized how creepy it was at this time of day. The lights were on, but the increasing darkness outside was competing with the overhead lights. Furthermore, she was the only one on the floor at the moment, since the faculty and students were all out on the grounds, busy with different activities. She had never seen the hallway so deserted, nor experienced such deathly silence. Sarah hesitated at first and contemplated whether she really needed her notes. She was sure she can just share with her friend Kate. But she didn't want to be that one unprepared person, so she took a deep breath and decided to keep going. Her classroom wasn't that far away, she told herself, and it would take less than a minute to find her notes. As she passed by the first classroom, she couldn't help but look in. It was empty as she expected. The lights in the classroom seemed brighter than in the hallway, which comforted her a bit. "See, it's not that creepy. Stop scaring yourself, Sarah," she muttered under her breath. She started walking faster and more confidently, continuing on to her classroom. The next classroom was empty, but brightly lit as well. As Sarah approached the 3rd classroom, she felt a slight chill in the air, and goosebumps broke out all over her body. "I hope it doesn't rain tonight," thought Sarah. Then she started faintly hearing scratching noises, like chalk on chalkboard. When she got to the classroom windows, she caught sight of a nun writing something on the chalkboard. The nun startled her a bit because she wasn't expecting anyone to be there. Maybe she's writing the agenda for tomorrow's activities, or perhaps a prayer for tonight, Sarah thought to herself as she kept walking. She decided she'd peek in on the way back and say hi to the nun and see what she had written on the board. However, as she was walking, something seemed off to her, but she couldn't quite put a finger to it. As she passed the fourth classroom, it finally dawned on Sarah what was gnawing at her. She realized she didn't recognize that nun, and this nun was wearing a black habit. All the students in her school were familiar with all the resident nuns there. There were only a handful of them after all. But she didn't know who this one was. Also, their nuns wore blue habits, not black. Sarah then thought that maybe she was a visiting nun here just for the retreat. That wouldn't be so out of the ordinary. It would explain why she didn't recognize her and why she was wearing a different habit. Satisfied with her theory, Sarah continued walking. Her classroom was the next one. Sarah quickly located her belongings and grabbed her dance notes. Then she hurriedly turned around and started heading back towards the stairs on the other end of the hall. She needed to get back to her group and not keep them waiting any longer. There was another set of stairs closer to this end of the building. However, Sarah was curious. She was in a hurry, but she also wanted to meet the nun and see what she was writing. Besides, the further staircase was closer to where her group was practicing. So she started walking faster towards the third classroom. When she got there, the nun was standing a little off to the left of the chalkboard, facing the wall. She stood there unmoving, but Sarah couldn't see what she was doing. Sarah then entered the classroom to say hi to the nun, but as soon as her foot crossed the threshold, the nun's head slowly started turning to face her. Sarah stopped in her tracks and noticed how pale the nun seemed from the side, but she was still facing the wall, so all Sarah could really see was a slight side profile. Sarah was about to say hi to her when she happened to glance at the chalkboard, and her words and breath caught in her throat. She felt as if she was going to faint on the spot. Then she looked back at the nun, and her blood froze. The nun's head started slowly turning to face her more, except that her body wasn't turning with her head. Sarah was cemented to the spot, even though every nerve ending in her body screamed for her to run. When the nun's face was fully facing Sarah, a scream started bubbling up from her throat. Fear and adrenaline kicked in, and she bolted out of the classroom, a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream emanating from her. Her group, being the closest to the stairs, heard her first. Her friend Kate ran to the stairs, and Sarah nearly bowled her over. Kate frantically asked her friend what happened, and Sarah could barely get her words out in between panicked breaths. I saw a nun up there. She was wearing all black. Her face, oh my god, her face. Her eyes were completely white, and her mouth was open, like she was screaming, but she wasn't making any sound. Sarah had to pause to catch her breath, and then in an almost crying tone added, and she wrote on the board, "Pray for me, I'm in hell." Then everything went black as Sarah slumped to the ground. So, what do you guys think? Do you believe Sarah saw the spirit of a deceased nun who had somehow descended into hell? What do you think this nun did to buy herself such a cursed afterlife? Comment down below. Thanks for joining me tonight, and tune in next time for another story here on Nervous Synapses.